Hello and welcome to BYJU'S Exam Prep IAS, presenting to you the daily quiz for 13th of December 2022. But before we begin, here is a gentle reminder to attend the workshop on how to choose an optional subject by Mukesh Jha sir. This workshop will be conducted online on the BYJU'S Exam Prep app at 7 p.m. tomorrow. It is a free workshop, so do register by clicking on the link given in the description box below. And if you have not already joined our official Telegram channel, do join our Telegram channel by clicking on the link that is in the description box. Now let us begin and take a look at the first question for today. How many of the following initiatives or schemes of the government exclusively target tribal development? Number 1, Pradhan Mantri Adi Adarsh Gram Yojana. Number 2, Ekalavya Model Residential Schools. Number 3, Sankalp Scheme. Number 4, Pradhan Mantri Van Dhan Yojana. Before we go ahead, let me remind you to pause the video, mark your answers and drop your answers in the comment section below. Also do let me know how many questions you could get right. Now what is the context? This article in the PIB today has a reference to the Pradhan Mantri Adi Adarsh Gram Yojana. See, this Yojana was launched for faster development of tribal villages. It is a modification of the earlier scheme of Special Central Assistance to Tribal Sub-Scheme. This scheme, that is the Pradhan Mantri Adi Adarsh Gram Yojana, aims at mitigating gaps and providing basic infrastructure in villages with significant tribal population. So this will be done in convergence with the funds that are available under different schemes in the Central Scheduled Tribe component, right? Now coming back to our question. See, some of the schemes of the government are launched exclusively for tribal development. That is, for the development and welfare of the scheduled tribes. And our question here is asking us for such schemes. Now when we take a look at the first scheme mentioned here, that is Pradhan Mantri Adi Adarsh Gram Yojana, as we just discussed, is aimed at tribal development, so 1 becomes correct. Now this scheme here, which is Ekalavya Model Residential Schools, is a scheme to establish model residential schools for the scheduled tribes across India. So this will also count as a scheme for tribal development. Then comes the Sankalp scheme. Sankalp stands for Skills Acquisition and Knowledge Awareness for Livelihood. And this is a scheme that was launched to focus on district level skilling ecosystem. So its aim is to implement the mandate of the National Skill Development Mission. But is it restricted to scheduled tribes? No. This scheme is available to Indian citizens who are at least 18 years old. So this is not exclusively for tribal development. So this becomes incorrect. The next one is Pradhan Mantri Van Dhan Yojana. This is an initiative that is aimed at livelihood generation for tribals by making use of forest produce. That is, to help them reap economic benefits from the forest produce, and hence the name Van Dhan. So this scheme is also aimed at tribal development. So the right answer to our question would be option C, 3 only. Moving on to question number 2. Consider the following statements. 0R is an Indian innovation in the parliamentary procedures. 0R starts immediately after the question hour and lasts till the agenda of the day. Question hour is not scheduled on the day the finance minister presents the budget. How many of the given statements is or are incorrect? What is the context? This article in the Indian Express newspaper today has a reference to the 0R, and that is why we've taken up this question for discussion. See, 0R is the time when members of parliament can raise issues of urgent public importance. But remember that this is not mentioned in the rules of procedure and is an informal device that is available to the MPs to raise matters of urgent public importance. Hence, here they can raise matters without prior notice. And the rationale behind naming it a 0R was that it was attributed to the fact that it starts at 12 noon. So remember this point that 0R is an Indian innovation in the field of parliamentary procedures, and this has been in existence since the year 1962. So statement number 1 here is correct. Now, the 0R starts immediately after the end of question hour, and this lasts till the agenda of the day. So statement number 2 is also correct. Now coming to question hour. See, question hour is considered the liveliest hour in the parliament. It is during this 1 hour that MPs can ask questions to ministers and hold them accountable for the functioning of their ministries. This questionnaire is mentioned in the rules of procedures of the House, right? The questionnaire is held on all the days of the session in both the houses of the parliament. But there are 2 days when there is an exception and questionnaire is not held. That is, number 1, when the president addresses the MPs from both the houses in the central hall. And number 2, questionnaire would not be scheduled on the day the finance minister presents the budget. So statement number 3 is also correct. Therefore, the right answer to our question here would be option D, none of the above. Here's a task for you for today. Let me know if questions can be asked to the private members during a question hour, or is it directed at ministers only? Let me know your answers in the comment section. Moving on to question number 3. Consider the following statements with respect to the New India Literacy Program. Number 1. It aims to support the states and union territories in promoting literacy among non-literates in the age group of 18 and above. Number 2. It is a central sector scheme. Number 3. Schools will be the unit for implementation of the scheme. How many of the given statements is or are incorrect? Why this question? This article in the PIB today talks about the New India Literacy Program and hence this question. See, New India Literacy Program is a centrally sponsored scheme which has been approved for the next 5 financial years, that is 2022 to 2027. And this scheme has been launched to integrate all the aspects of adult education with the National Education Policy of 2020. The aim of the program is to support the states as well as union territories in promoting literacy among non-literates in the age group of 15 and above. So basically, it aims at education for all. This New India Literacy Program has 5 components, namely the foundational literacy and numeracy, critical life skills, vocational skills development, and basic education and continuing education. How will this scheme be implemented? This scheme will be implemented through volunteerism through online mode, and schools will be the basic unit for implementation of the scheme. The scheme will have involvement of school students, pre-service students of higher educational institutions, school teachers, and also Anganwadi and Asha workers. It will make use of the information and communication technology and online implementation of the scheme through the online teaching, learning and assessment system material and resources. So coming back to our question, statement number 1 becomes incorrect because it is for the age group of 15 and above. Statement number 2 is also incorrect because it is a centrally sponsored scheme. But statement number 3 is correct. Therefore, the right answer to our question would be option B, 2 statements only, because the question is asking us for incorrect statements. Moving on to question number 4. Development Working Group is often seen in the news in the context of option A, Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change or IPCC, option B, G20, option C, World Economic Forum, option D, Association of Southeast Asian Nations or ASEAN. If you've been following the news regularly, you will mark this answer in a jiffy. The right answer here would be option B, G20. See, at the G20 Toronto Summit in the year 2010, the leaders agreed to establish the G20 Development Working Group. The mandate of this development working group was to lead the implementation of the group's development agenda. Let me explain this. The Development Working Group lays its focus on narrowing the development gap and reducing poverty. It aims to discuss developmental issues in developing countries, least developed countries, and also the island countries. So basically, it is a platform for G20 member countries to come together and prioritize multilateralism, share solutions that promote growth, remap their development plans, and also achieve the Sustainable Development Goal targets. The reason we've picked up this question is because of the mention of Development Working Group in this article in the Indian Express today. Now let us take up a previous year question from Prelims paper 2017. Biological oxygen demand is a standard criterion for option A, measuring oxygen levels in blood, option B, computing oxygen levels in forest ecosystems, option C, pollution assay in aquatic ecosystems, option D, assessing oxygen levels in high altitude regions. First of all, what is biological oxygen demand? The amount of oxygen that is needed by the biological organisms like bacteria in a given water sample for breakdown of organic matter by oxidation process is called as biological oxygen demand. So this biological oxygen demand or biochemical oxygen demand is mostly used as an index of the degree of organic pollution in water. Therefore, option C here would be the most appropriate answer. Now let us take up the fact of the day for today, which is rare diseases. What is the context? There is a mention of the policy on rare diseases in the Hindu newspaper today, and that is why we've picked up this topic for discussion. First of all, let us understand what a rare disease is. A rare disease is a disease that affects a small percentage of the population compared to other diseases. So its prevalence is very low. There is not a single universally accepted definition for a rare disease. But the World Health Organization defines a rare disease as a lifelong disease or a disorder with a prevalence of 1 or less per thousand population. Another point to note here is that they are often termed as orphan diseases. Why? Because the pharmaceutical companies were not ready to invest and develop drugs for them because of the low prevalence. And that is why the drugs used to treat or manage rare diseases are also known as orphan drugs. Please note here that most of the rare diseases, that is about 80%, are genetic and hence affects a large number of children. But some of the rare diseases are also not inherited. For example, some rare cancers, some autoimmune diseases, and also infectious tropical diseases. In India, close to 500 rare diseases have been recorded. Some of the common rare diseases that affect the people in India are autoimmune diseases, Gaucher's disease, hemophilia, sickle cell anemia, thalassemia, Pompe disease, cystic fibrosis, etc. In the year 2021, the Government of India notified the National Policy for Treatment of Rare Diseases. It was proposed to have a national registry for a database of rare diseases. Under the policy, it was also decided to provide financial assistance to poor patients and patients covered under the Ayushman Bharat for Group 1 diseases that were classified as rare diseases. This financial assistance was later increased to rupees 50 lakh per patient as well. But according to this article here, it is said that sadly these benefits have not been reaching the patients. That is all for today. Thank you for being with us. Keep watching and keep learning.